Oi, hello there, Jessica.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. It's early British Matt Thiessen.
It's me, British Thiessen. I'm back again. For any new listeners you got, I'm sure they're not familiar. Every time you go and review one of my early punk rock classics from All Work and No Play, I got a show up here. I hop into my whizabout, which is what we call a time machine in England. And I come here from the year 1998.
You don't call it a TARDIS?
It's a good point.
So, British Thiessen, not that it's not great to see you here, but we're actually doing a song off of 5 Score, and you're nowhere to be seen there. So I'm just wondering, what are you doing here today?
Oh, well, funny you should ask about that. Last time I was here, I went back to my year 1998, and I talked to me good friend, me close companion, Johnny Rotten.
Oh,
Perhaps
wow.
you've heard of him.
I have.
And he was like...
What was he doing in Canton in 1998?
just hanging about.
Oh, all right.
Just having a laugh.
Oh, all right.
And next thing you know, he's like, Oi, Thiessen, where were you? Where were you about? And I said, I was in the year 2022. And Johnny Rotten was like, I've heard of 2022. That's when the Queen's gonna die. And I said, Oi, the Queen wasn't dead when I was there. And he said, what month were you there? And I said, August, I think. And he said, well, she dies in September. This is September, right? Yeah. So I'm back. I'm back to see that the Queen's dead, and I'm real sad because all punk rockers love the Queen.
Those are cold hard facts right there. All punk rockers love the Queen.
And I brought a special friend this time.
Oh, okay.
It's me special friend. It's me closest pal other than Johnny Rotten.
Okay.
It's me good friend, British Matt Oops.
Oh, wow. I don't think we were even familiar at all with British Matt Hoops.
Oh, yes. It's nice to meet you. I'm British Matt Hoops. Yes, you know me from All Work and No Play the demo.
This has just gone so far off the rails.
That's okay, because I know I'll be forgiven here on Sadie Hawkins Pod.
Oh, no, really?
Yeah, I had that all planned. Had that all planned out. I just humiliated myself.
Let's just get to the intro. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Sadie Hawkins Pod.
Yes, it's nice to be here. It's me, British Hoops. No. I get all names mixed up once in a while.
I don't even know what we're gonna do in editing because the levels were so far blown with your
That's what punk rock is, Jessica. Punk rock is blowing the levels.
All right. Well, hi everyone.
So I got a new Bluetooth speaker, right? Not the new Bluetooth speaker, sorry. No, this is our Bluetooth speaker that we use on the table for podcasting.
Okay, there you go. I was like, he's pushing it, like waiting for the sound, and it's not happening.
But I got a new Bluetooth car FM transmitter, and it speaks like this. And so I've been driving around in the car, speaking like this, and I'm like, this is British Oops. It's like connecting. It's just like, I guess it's a British Bluetooth transmitter.
Sure,
and it's like powering on.
Alrighty.
So
then.
I just had this voice stuck in my head, and I was like, I gotta premiere
let's power on. Any top of the show business, Dan?
Yeah, we took last week off, Jessica. What the fuck?
Oh, wow. Oh, I think you're still a little too punk rock there, Dan. Let's try and bring it back just a little bit.
So sorry we took last week off. Unexpectedly, a lot was going on, and it was just one of those weeks where it was like an intense week. IVF, our longtime listeners know that we're working towards IVF, towards having a child, and the last week was a big week trying to move forward with that. Nothing to talk about, no big news right now, but there was a lot of appointments last week. And then the thing that really knocked me out was we went into the storage unit to get Halloween ready, and that literally took a week.
Took a lot out of him.
It took a lot out of me.
Yeah, I had a little procedure, and then Danny was just feeling overwhelmed with the storage unit and life.
It's like, I'm not podcasting. I'm not doing anything.
But we're here. We're back. We're back this week.
And we appreciate all of you. Yes, we're back.
So thank you for hanging in there for an extra week.
I hope you enjoyed our high of 75 reposts.
Yeah. I hope we can be forgiven for taking the week off.
Oh, I already made that joke, Jessica.
Well, you know.
I can forgive you for being rusty. We took a week off. So, I'm just joking. So we do have voicemails. Here's the first voicemail from David Park. So obviously we have a couple voicemails for like the last 2 weeks, and then we have a couple brand new ones. So here's one.
Nice.
I remember, this is David from Jimmy Eat Pod. I remember as a joke thinking, oh man, wouldn't it be so funny if people thought the COVID-19 vaccine was the mark of the beast? I didn't even Google it to see if that was a real thing, but good God. And that reminds me, we have got to sit down and watch the classic 70s Christian scare film that they showed us called A Thief in the Night. If I remember correctly, there are 2 parts, and that they showed this to us in the 3rd grade was wild to me. Absolutely horrifying. Maybe we should add it to the Cinema Cataclysm Halloween playlist, because good God.
Absolutely. Come over. We're doing it.
Yep. So there's a bunch of things to mention there. First of all, we did a Patreon episode. I think I talked about this 2 weeks ago, but we did a Patreon episode where I'm hard-pressed to now plug this specific person because I don't really want to plug it. But there's this blog out there that kind of was infamous in like Christian rock circles because it was so hardline against Christian rock. And we talked about it before that we've been doing this Patreon episode. We're reading through this blog, and it just got more and more intense in terms of like how Christian rock is just actually all Christian rock. And actually,
they think Amy Grant's a harlot.
Right. And, you know, I also have to preface this now with, you know, since so many bands have come out as gay affirming, like this is this big awful mark on Christian bands, which it's not. I'm just saying that, you know, a sect of Christianity, a section of it, a percentage of it is like, oh, Relient K is gay affirming, Switchfoot is gay affirming, and it's all been a lie, and they're just doing that for money, which is ridiculous. It's not, they're not doing that for money, they're doing it because they're decent people. But now there's like tons more rhetoric online about how all these Christian bands were evil or whatever the whole time. They were woke the whole time. They're all being woke for money. It's not that. That's not what this blog is. This blog is about how Christian rock, the very existence of doing rock music with supposed Christian ties, is all a lie, and it's all about how Satan actually wants to steal your soul by pretending to be Christian. And the biggest sin that any Christian rock band can do, Third Day did it, according to this blog, and that's cover Lynyrd Skynyrd. Because this Christian ministry blog was like, I saw one of the worst examples of so-called Christian rock ever. Yikes. At a Christian conference when Third Day said, we're playing a song for our parents now. And what did they play? Amazing Grace? No, they played Sweet Home Alabama.
And I'm like, were they in Alabama? Because that's just a thing bands do, you know? You play the song of the area. It's a thing.
So we dug into this writer more, and they're still at it. And they had a whole thing about how COVID and COVID vaccines are the mark of the beast. And if you get a COVID vaccine, it's the mark of the beast.
That's right.
So,
go on over to patreon.com/Sadie Hawkins Pod, and you will be hearing that as our next Relient K book club. Just kidding.
Yeah, we're going to read about I was so confused. Then I got what you were saying.
I mean, I am a little tempted to read the Santa one.
Right, about how Santa's a lie. Well, yeah. And it was funny.
Danny. Trigger warning? What?
No. I
You
didn't
mean,
say Santa's not real. I said
okay.
Santa is a lie.
Okay.
Santa is an agent of the enemy.
Okay.
Trying to steal the
Okay.
message of Christmas.
There
The
we
real
go.
Santa Claus is a demon
Right.
trying to steal Christmas from
Like the
Christ.
church lady. Santa, Satan,
Exactly.
Dana Carvey.
Right. All that came up, and then, yeah, David Park here mentioned The Thief in the Night, which was one of the earliest Rapture movies.
Oh, wow.
Sure, Left Behind is, like, popular from the 90s to now, but before Left Behind, there were these 70s movies, the first of which was The Thief in the Night, and it was
see.
about the Rapture. And I watched the first one based
Now,
on...
how do they handle the animals? Because
I don't know, remember.
if the animals aren't getting raptured, I'm not here for it.
Right.
Because they are sweet little innocent babies and should all be taken. Thank you very much.
A couple of years ago, we watched the Nick Cage Left Behind movie for a bad movie night. Many years ago, like something like 6 years ago. And then when we finished it, and I was familiar with the first Left Behind book and the first Left Behind movie. And I'm like, oh, that first Nick Cage movie, which there was only the one, but I'm like, that Nick Cage Left Behind remake, quote unquote, was only the first half or the first third of Left Behind, the actual book. Because he gets off the plane and continues from there. But
Well, sure, they had to plan all those sequels, you know.
Right, that's what's funny. But they basically just took the first third of the book. Anyway, and just all the stuff on the airplane, which is just the opening of the book in the original movie. So we put on the first Kirk Cameron one for a little bit. But what Jessica was really upset is that when the Christians get raptured, there's a specific scene where the dog is sad because his Christian master is gone. And Jessica's like, that's awful, I hate that.
Fucking bullshit is
And then
what that is.
we just
Fucking bullshit.
We just kind of, all dogs go to heaven. We flip around the Kirk Cameron one just to like see how it compared production wise, because I couldn't remember after all those years how it compared production wise. And we just land on the one moment with the dog, in the same moment from the Nick Cage one. And Jessica's like, that's it. But that moment I don't know if that happens in A Thief in the Night, which is this very early Rapture movie about how, I think it's where the song I Wish We'd All Been Ready, which DC Talk eventually, maybe the Wish We'd All Been Ready is in that movie that DC Talk eventually covered. I don't remember. Anyway, I watched A Thief in the Night a couple years ago based off of David Park's recommendation that he remembered being force-fed that movie at a young age. And it was on Amazon Prime, and when I used to watch like 3 movies a day at work, I made that one of them. But, yeah. And, we watched Omega Code more recently. We watched both Omega Codes. I think the Omega Code...
We unfortunately own that now on VHS, because we saw it at a thrift store, and Danny was like, ooh, yay. It's been packed away. It's not on the shelf.
What I forgot, though, is that there's no Rapture in Omega Code. There's no Rapture in Omega Code. And it's not like they don't make a point to say there is no Rapture. They just, like, kind of breeze past if it even happened. They kind of leave it in the implied story or not. Do you remember we watched Omega Code and Omega Code 2?
Yeah.
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 There's no Rapture in that.
I was very much not paying attention. When we put it on, I was worried it was going to be like Left Behind, and I just like sat on my phone paying attention to like my phone the whole time.
I think the Omega Code movie, even though...
Probably reading very sinful fan fiction.
I think the Omega Code movies are probably the best of the Christian Revelations different series, because what do you have of the famous series of Revelations based movies? You have Left Behind, which is like probably the most popular. You have the Apocalypse series that we talked about, which is the ones that have Jeff Fahey and Mr. T and Howie Mandel and Gary Busey. That series, there were 4 of them: Apocalypse, Tribulation, Revelation, those movies. And then you have the Thief in the Night series, and then you have the Omega Code series. So you have those 4 big series of Revelations-based Christian fiction. I think Omega Code is probably the more fun one because it doesn't have a rapture. It really focuses on the Antichrist side of it, and it's got amazing cast. Like, it's got Michael York. It has, what's his name? The bald guy, the dad. We just saw him. He was the dad in Mary Lou 2, in Prom Night 2, Mary Lou.
Oh, Michael Ironside.
Michael Ironside's in the first one. Oh, Rico Rodriguez is in Rico Rodriguez. What's his name?
I don't know. I have to just take your word for it on all of these. In case, again, you're new to the podcast, I'm not touching Revelation with a 10-foot pole. I can't even listen to Deathbed. So
Right.
I certainly am not... I don't have any interest in apocalypse-themed things.
Johnny Rico, Casper Van Dien.
Oh, there you
Johnny
go.
Rico from Starship Troopers. He's in Omega Code 2. Omega Code 2 is so much fun. Like, I feel like of these Revelations movies, the Omega Code ones are the only ones I would actually call fun. Like, they're fun movies in and of themselves.
You know, it's a fun movie. You just mentioned it. Prom Night
Starship
2,
Troopers,
Hello,
oh.
Mary Lou, and Starship Troopers. Great films.
Oh, and
Great
that's the
films.
last thing. There were so many points that we had to talk about in David Park's voicemail. In his very short voicemail, only 50 seconds, there were so many things. Cinema Cataclysm. I don't think we've talked about it here on the podcast, but if you've been listening to us for a long time, you know, we reserved the name Cinema Cataclysm years ago because we were going to do a bad movie podcast.
Back in
and
2016.
I know, we've talked about it. We talked about, we're going to do this side project, maybe do one movie a month. Never done it. Well, one day to Jessica, about a month ago, I was like, you know, you could retool the Cinema Cataclysm Instagram to just be like about you and your VHS collection, because there's a lot of VHS collection Instagram accounts.
Yeah.
And I mean, we didn't call it Cinema Cataclysm Podcast on
Right,
Instagram.
no, it's just
So-
Cinema Cataclysm.
So Jessica retooled it to be about,
Yeah.
you know...
So I'm up and running that now,
Yeah.
and yeah, eventually we'll get the website going with reviews and stuff, and hopefully start the podcast. We've just been a little busy recently, but we're hoping to settle in and get that stuff started.
Yep. And every year...
We said that like 2 years ago.
I know. John Potter from Magnified Pod's been talking about how he would be a guest on Cinema
Yep.
Cataclysm. But also, David Park mentioned your marathons. Because every
Yes.
year, Jessica programs a month of horror movies. And this year,
It's
she's
called
doing...
Camp Cataclysm.
It's called Camp Cataclysm. We've been doing it since 2015.
Yeah.
And because we came up with the name Cinema Cataclysm before we reserved all the social media for this
Yeah.
thing we've never fully done. But Jessica programs a month of horror movies every year as if our home is a theater, and we invite friends. And so...
I put together a little pre-show, and yeah, it's just fun.
We should do Omega Code and Omega Code 2.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I'm not programming that night.
Well, here is a voicemail from Matt.
Hey, Danny and Jess, this is Matt Kemp from St. Louis, also known as Matt K 1975. Met you guys at the Orlando show in Orlando. I also ended up going to the St. Louis show, the first show of the Omniad tour. Loved the show, listening to it kind of backwards, in between on flights, and trying to catch up. I think about like 2 Christmas episodes from last year, and I put the sticker you guys gave me on my phone, and stickers rather, on my phone and on my iPad. So always representing you guys. I do love the deep dives that you do about all the songs that we listen to over the years. Avid fan of the band since around 2003 is when I believe I got their first CD. I believe those 2 lefts from one of my classmates in high school. And then in 2000, whenever they did the Jay Leno show, Sleigh Ride Live, I got tickets to that specifically for them. Did not know that Jim Carrey and Rosario Dawson were going to be there. I did know that Tom Wilson from Back to the Future was going to be there. I forgot how I found that out. I think it was MySpace or something. But in any case, I guess Christmas is just around the corner because they just brought pumpkin spice lattes out. So I don't know if you guys have done a sleigh ride episode yet. I'm assuming you did. I prefer the live version with Schneck on the xylophone. But in any case, keep up the great work, and I will keep on listening.
Thank you. That's amazing that you were at the Jay Leno performance.
That is so cool. That is so cool. I feel
really
like
cool.
we need more details on that
Yeah.
for sure. And I'm glad that you got to go to the Orlando show and the St. Louis show, because you got a nice warm show and like a freezing cold show, because wasn't the St. Louis show the one that was like almost snowed out or something? Like I think it might have been one of those shows was like really, really cold.
You're a better fan than me. I don't remember that crap. I don't remember those details.
And thank you for repping Sadie Hawkins.
That's amazing. Yeah, thank you. We should like make stickers available somehow.
Yeah.
Hit us up. You know what? I'm just calling it right here. Just DM us. This is good. Like what do you call it? Like a survey for who's actually listening out there. Just DM us, and I'll send you a free sticker.
Yeah.
I'll just send it. It's
up.
a 50-cent stamp. What's a stamp now? 50 cents?
I don't
It's
know.
a 50-cent stamp plus the $1 sticker. I'll just send it to you.
You got it. Just thanks for listening.
Because the patrons get like a couple of stickers and a few other little gifts, and people we met in person got stickers.
Yep.
So I'm calling it right now. This isn't impeding on the patrons' benefits. You get one sticker if you just hit us up on the DMs and say, hey, I'd like a sticker. In perpetuity until at least we've covered every Relient K song. So
that's also your gift if you listened through that very long intro before we actually got to the song.
Well, we got 2 more voicemails.
Oh, okay. Let's do it.
Let's hear the rest of these.
Hey, Justin Dan, it's Allie calling. I am so excited that you've done Heartache. I'm still listening to it. I got about 15 minutes left. But Heartache is arguably probably my favorite Relient K song. And the reason being is it, to me, is like the perfect musical expression of being content during discontentment with your life. So personally, this past year, I've gone through a divorce. And so the song has been like my reminder that even though I'm not exactly where I thought I would be, I can still find contentment and happiness where I am presently while still hoping for something better at the same time. So it means a lot to me. I have a TikTok and a reel on my page with this song as the background to like highlight like my year of growth during this experience. Additionally, I feel like that ending part of Deathbed when John Foreman comes in, that like da 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 da, that part, if that was layered on top at the end, oh my gosh, that would scratch an itch in my brain so well. Anyway, thank you guys for finally covering my favorite song. Bye.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing,
That's
Allie.
incredible. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I love that. I love hearing about how like each song touches people. That's so beautiful.
Yeah. It reminds me that I did have some like additional notes to Heartache that I didn't think about when we were doing the episode. And that's one thing is that, because when we do an episode, we do a song, I'll end up hearing the song for the rest of the week after the episode is published, because I spend that next week posting the stuff we found on YouTube. So I'll hear the song more. Once in a while, I have an extra thought on the song that isn't really worth necessarily sharing. It's not that big a thing. But this time for Heartache, I had 2 more big thoughts that I'm like, darn, I really wish these had been in the episode. The first is that heartache is a compound word. The word heartache is a compound word. But and this is subtle but significant, poetically. Thiessen chooses to use it. This is a mini Heartache follow-up episode. Thiessen chooses to use it as a sentence. I will not let my heart ache. He's not using the compound word. He's using it as a verb. He's saying a heartache is a noun, right? I guess a heartache can be a verb as well. But he's deliberately turning heart into a noun and ache into a verb. He says, I will not let my heart ache. He's separating those words, which is so interesting. That he's like takes this word that means one thing, a heartache. A heartache is a heartache. Like it's binary. Like you have a heartache. But he's like, no, I will not let my heart ache.
Yeah.
And the actual poetry, the writing down of those lyrics, you have to separate those words to make that sentence work grammatically. If he said, I will not feel a heartache, then the word is still the word heartache.
Right.
But by saying, I will not let my heart ache, he's separating the heart from the ache, literally. And that's like, I don't know if he even thought of it that way or if it just came out that way and it works that way. But if it was deliberate, that's amazing. And the second thing that I didn't think of, because I didn't think of part of this at all until you mentioned it, was that in the lyrics he mentions how his dreams found him. He never had to chase his dreams. But then later in the song, you mentioned that last week. Later in the song, he's talking about how things are kind of more difficult, and he's going towards heartache, but he's not going to let his heartache. And I kind of realized that the song might actually be about how he never had to chase his dreams. Like, he literally just fell into Relient K. He just fell into being a touring band that became super popular. His dream found him. But now as he's gotten older, now he's had to, like, keep up with the dream. Like, the dream doesn't just stay there like it did for so many years. Like, it's now taking work to stay with Relient K. And that's maybe what the heartache is he's trying to fight a little bit. It's like he just became this band. He just became a popular musician like he dreamed of. And now he's got to work to keep it up because, like, the whole band has lives and, like, you know, so you might have fans, but it doesn't come as easily anymore. Like,
it's like Allie said, it's that finding content in discontentment.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah. So that was our mini heartache follow-up. I did a little sachet with my hands.
Danny's doing, like, weird jazz hands or something over here.
And we have one more voicemail, and then we'll get to talking about Forgiven from the album 7 years ago.
Hey, Danny and Jess. It's Sean from Allentown in Pennsylvania. Just wanted to comment on a couple things recently on some episodes. Starting off with the Heartache episode. When you guys were talking about, you know, like the pedal hoops, the effect or whatever that he was using, the effect you were looking for is delay. And specifically, the division of the notes that were, you know, coming after was a dotted eighth note. If you want to get really nerdy with it, there's something about that dotted eighth note division that gives it that real, you know, like rainfall kind of U2 or Sweet Disposition type of sound and everything. So yeah, it was the delay effect that you were looking for. And then going back a couple episodes, whenever I called in and mentioned that I had a Two Left's book, yes, obviously, I mean, yeah, they made a book for it. I found it. It's actually on my bookshelf right now. And if you're curious, it has the light blue cover with all four of the vehicles in a junkyard. And as far as I know, there were at least 3 books. You guys have, I know about Two Lefts, and they made one for 5 score because I had a friend at the time who had a 5 score book. I don't know if they did anything else beyond that. I don't recall ever seeing an anatomy book, and the stuff after 5 score was kind of getting strange. You know, they had the Burn the B-sides and stuff like that. I don't think there was a Forget one, but, you know, if someone else out there knows more, but I'd love to at least get the 3 that I know of, Two Lefts, and 5 score. I'd love to have all of them, but yeah, that's what I know about the book. Maybe someone else knows something else. But that's all I just really wanted to say. Also, I had no idea Snake Charmer existed. You're right about that one. Most of your listeners probably have no idea about that one. That was news to me. But anyway, that was it. I'm still liking the podcast and everything. Keep doing what you're doing, guys. Hope all is well after, you know, like the re-upload and everything. Hope there's nothing too serious going on. So, yeah, keep it up. Bye.
Thanks for calling again, Sean.
Yeah, thank you.
Soxy's coming for your job.
What? Oh, you can see my socks. Right. Daniel, yeah. Oh, I'm peeking so bad. Sorry about that. I'm not being British teasing. But I'm still peeking. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah,
it's funny because your levels are usually lower, but for some reason, the past couple episodes, mine have been lower and yours have been really high.
I don't know what to tell you, baby. When you're with me, you get as high as the sky. Anyway, yeah, I'm wondering how many people actually had not. I'm sure most people hadn't heard of Snake Charmer because I don't think I'd ever heard of Snake Charmer before I did research the months leading up to us doing this podcast. But yeah, how many people really heard of Snake Charmer before?
I will not let my snake be charmed.
All right. See? Allie wants a reference to Deathbed, a musical reference to Deathbed, interpolated into Heartache. You want the lyrics of Snake Charmer put into the song Heartache.
I want the lyrics of Snake Charmer to be put
Tattooed
into
on your
everything.
Oh yeah, there was that other like kind of pseudo news for Relient K recently where Relient, you probably didn't hear about this. Relient K on TikTok, a woman just like posted a thing on TikTok where she's like kind of jamming out to Mood Rings, and she's like, and then it says the text on there. It says like, man, I really need Relient K to apologize for the lyrics to Mood Rings, right? Mm-hmm. And then Relient K popped into the comments on her TikTok and said, "We apologize. We were kids and we're always growing."
Relient K sliding into those DMs on the TikTok.
Yeah. And then that became like a thing on Relevant Magazine, like an article, like all this stuff.
Why?
I don't know, because at this point,
is it really all that relevant?
I don't know. That's what you say every time Relevant Magazine comes up.
Well, I just feel like they aren't terribly like relevant. I just
If
feel
they're
like they
just
aren't
talking
living
about
up to the
TikTok
name. They like just look for anything that's happening with Relient K and are like, this is relevant.
Right, because one of the last big times we talked about them was the Eve 6 news. The Eve 6. So every time there's a big
that
social...
weird shush noise, was Danny attempting to snap? Because he can't snap.
I can't snap. That's me trying to snap.
I don't know how to teach you, hon.
No, you taught me.
I've been trying for years. It's just, he's clicking the right fingers together. It's just not making the noise.
No. I didn't know how to snap. I always thought this... I didn't know the snap sound is actually the finger hitting the palm. I thought somehow the snap noise actually comes out of the two fingers parting. Nope. It's your middle finger or your ring finger, whatever you use, hitting your palm below.
You just have those soft, delicate hands, Danny. Oh.
Jessica, be quiet for a second. Be quiet. Shut up. I don't mean it. Hey!
He also can't wink.
I can't wink.
He's worse than Lucille Bluth. Oh my gosh.
And I can't roll my R's. And just like Lucille Bluth, I also can't make a chicken noise. Ba-ka-ka! Ba-ka-ka! That's me trying to make a chicken noise. And that may be true, but I know
yeah. The secrets are all coming out this week.
No matter what the secrets are, I know I'll be forgiven as we talk about the song.
Yeah, we all heard it. You didn't have to repeat it.
Okay. So, Forgiven from 7 years ago.
We actually have a lot to say about this song. I mean, not a lot to say, but a lot to talk about.
Right.
This is one of the few Relient K songs that has its own Wikipedia.
Oh, right.
It's always exciting when we get to these songs. So, according to the Wikipedia, Forgiven is the first Christian radio single from Relient K's fifth album, 7 years ago, and was released just days before the lead single. The song was officially released to Christian radio somewhere around December 1st, 2006, but could be heard on the radio as early as November 24th. This song can be heard on GoTo Records' website as of November 28th. The band also made the song available via their MySpace on December 1st, 2006. Now, I think that the important thing here is Christian radio.
Right.
Because I know that definitely Best Thing and Must Have Done Something Right were already out there available for the non-Christian sort of crowd. And this is also interesting. We'll get to it later as to why this was picked up as the Christian single, because they didn't know clearly the story behind the song. So this also peaked at number 13 on the Hot Christian charts. It was Danny, you're a hot Christian. It was the fourth most played Christian hit radio song in 2007, according to R&R magazine. So this song appeared, and I'm just going to go over it now.
Okay.
And this is your little background as to this song's meaning. This song appeared on the Wow Hits 2008 compilation, which is interesting since it was released in 2006. Anyhow, according to Songfacts, in the liner notes of Wow Hits 2008, Thiessen said, "This song is about a rough situation I went through. A close friend said some things about me that weren't totally kind and weren't totally accurate. The way I dealt with it was by immediately saying, all right, I'm going to forgive you and just get over it. And hopefully you can do the same thing for me. And we can just move along. If I sit down and stew on something, it can worsen the situation. Whereas if I can just forgive, it definitely prevents ulcers. It's really not an issue anymore. But it was very therapeutic to write about.
So I have things to say about that. But first, let me just mention that I went to Discogs and I typed in Relient K Forgiven to see if there was a CD single sent to radio stations.
Mm-hmm.
Some new stuff in the last couple of months, some promotional CDs have shown up as entries on Discogs.
Okay.
So there's more printed promotional CDs maybe out there than exist on Discogs. So maybe there was a CD promotional single sent to Christian bookstores. Not Christian bookstores, Christian radio stations. I say the phrase Christian bookstore more in my life than Christian radio stations, so muscle memory led me wrong. But
well, Danny, you're forgiven.
Thank you. This episode is about forgiveness.
It's more than saying sorry. Forgiveness means accepting people's flaws. To forgive is divine. So let's have a glass of wine and have makeup sex until the end of time.
What is that from?
Time.
Is that Lana Del Rey?
It's Samantha James, bitch. It's from Just Friends.
Oh, okay. Anyway, if a promotional CD of Forgiven was sent to Christian radio stations, it has not been cataloged on Discogs. So I don't know. It's so funny that Wikipedia entry does have such specific dates for when it started being played on Christian radio. So I guess anything's possible. I still don't believe at all that Penny Loafer Saved is a Penny Loafer Earned was ever released as a promotional CD to any station ever. I think whoever wrote that Wikipedia entry was just completely mistaken and confused about the fact that Penny Loafer Saved was the second song on Employee of the Month.
That's why I sort of gave the caveat as of according to Wikipedia.
Citation needed,
right. But I did look into the WoW hits thing, and that is sound, and it's even on Song Facts. So.
Right. And that's the next thing I want to mention. Since I already typed in Relient K Forgiven on Discogs, all of the WoW compilations that this song is on came up in the search results, and I looked into it, and I don't think I ever realized this, and I wonder if this is... No, the Now CDs aren't dated by year, but the WoW CDs apparently are like cars. They're released the year before the year model. So the WoW 2008 CD was released in 2007, and I assume that the WoW 2006 CD was released in 2005, etc., etc.
Okay,
so that explains that portion. But yeah, this song makes complete sense. Out of all of 5 score, it's the most Christian. It's one of the 2 most overtly Christian songs I can immediately think of. This and Deathbed. I mean, Christ shows up at the end of Deathbed. That's very Christian.
I was like, wait, I did not listen to this song enough if he shows up at the end here.
No, Deathbed, he shows up at the end as John Foreman, which makes sense, he has long hair. But Forgiven, at first listen, it just sounds like a penitent song about salvation and grace. And we'll dive into the lyrics, but it just sounds completely on the surface level to just be about the Christian concept of forgiveness and grace and that we're all forgiven in Christ and all of that. But then it's funny that Thiessen has released an official statement about the song, and that the writing of the song itself stems from a pragmatic, specific situation with a friend about him forgiving that friend for a slight, and in turn, that friend hopefully, I'm reading between the lines of Thiessen's statement here now, but I guess by extension also, hopefully that friend forgiving Thiessen for Thiessen having hurt that friend, who then turned around and told, rumors about him. So it's funny that it's just about forgiveness of a specific friend and vice versa. and then it's just written through the lens of his belief and his faith in Christ, and that brings it to the front, which brings it to the front of the concept of the song, which it's so funny because on this to me it's funny. On this podcast, I'm constantly taking these songs that clearly have a spiritual Christian understanding of the world, a Christian value, a Christian, way of looking at things. And I'm trying to say anyone can see it this way. Anyone can understand it that way. It exists in the world. It's apart from just your religion, your faith in Christ, that you, the listener, listening to this song. Is this making any sense?
Yeah.
All the time I'm taking these sort of borderline Christian spiritual songs that are clearly written by Matt Thiessen deliberately to be both Christian viewpoint, but also get, non-Christian people who listen to it to get them to understand the viewpoint. I'm constantly looking at those, and I'm trying to play choice of words here, devil's advocate, and being maybe it's not that Christian. Maybe it's meant for the people this is the opposite of that, where it's actually stems from just a specific incident about his friend group and becomes what is clearly a spiritual, faith-based, Christian-based song about grace and God's forgiveness for our sins. There's no inkling that this is, any sort of more world, more secular side, worldly side,
yeah, no, not at all. Except
it's a
for
super faith-based song.
Yeah, except for that one little excerpt,
And this also, and that also plays into a thing which I constantly harp on, is that I think people sometimes view song meanings as too unary, meaning one instead of binary. Things can only be one thing. I've got to put this song in a box, and it has to be in that box. You can't ever let 2 parallel universes or 5 parallel universes exist for the meaning of the same song. But I'm always trying to leave myself open to interpreting every song in every possible way. I hate to assume the song writer meant this. That's what they meant. Or they didn't mean this. Or I try to keep my mind open with all these things. And so It's funny to see, here's an example of a song where he starts with something that's just personal to him. And that's the kickoff, pun intended, that's the kickoff into just writing a song about grace. And he could have written this song just opening the Bible and be I'm going to write a song about this verse and here we go. But no, he had a specific incident in his life that led to the writing of this song. And that just shows how that's the purpose of poetry, is you can stub your toe and it's the most painful thing that's happened to you in the last year. And then you say, I'm going to sit down and write a song about stubbing my toe.
Damn, I want to be that person.
And the song that you write, everyone interprets the stubbing your toe song as being about police brutality. You write a song about stubbing your toe.
I mean, that's the beautiful thing about art, is that you can interpret it however you want to interpret it, and the song means whatever it means to you. And I think that this is one of those things where, and I've had this before with even Thiessen quotes about what the song's about, where I'm I refuse to believe that the truth was written specifically about the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I just don't. I can't even. That Turkish Delight, bop song was 70s Getting It On song was way more Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe than the truth, okay? So... I totally get it, and I think that there can also be other things at play, and maybe you're oh, this is brought me into it, so you're a lot more focused on the overall incident that brought you into writing something, and then you just kind of, it took on a life of its own, and you definitely brought in other factors. We know that while writing the song, Thiessen is a practicing Christian. Mm-hmm. That's something that's very important to him. His spirituality is really important in his life, and so it comes out. It's going to shine through no matter what maybe you came to write something with the intentions of. You can definitely take out and put out sort of, other things that might even be on your mind subconsciously,
Right.
And again, it's what you take out of the song. That is what matters.
Right. Well, focusing on the music for a second, because I know we'll deep dive into the lyrics in a little bit. But on the music, I don't have a lot to say. I don't know everything that's going on here musically, because we're not musicians. We're not musically inclined and talented. It seems like a very rich song. There's a lot going on here. But what I end up I feel like this song is definitely the least pop-oriented song on this album. Like,
that's interesting.
You know what I mean? Like, I gotta look at the track list for a second.
No, because my only notes on the music was, because this was, again, one of those songs, we've talked about it before. When I put on quite a few songs on 5 Score, I'm like, I've never heard this song before. And then it gets into it, and I'm like, oh, right. It's
right.
This song. So when I put on this song this week, when Danny's like, we're doing Forgiven, I'm like, okay, cool. My first reaction was like, ooh, yeah, this piano. Immediately followed by, what in the Coldplay is this? And then a short time after, oh, right, this is Super 5 Score. Like,
right.
That was sort of my emotional journey with re-listening to the song.
No,
this
yeah,
week.
this song definitely sounds like it only belongs on 5 Score. Like, I can't see a version of this necessarily on or on Forget Not Slow Down. But what I find interesting is that when I start out listening to Forgiven with that opening kind of like, I don't know if it's technically minor key, I'm not a musician, I have no idea, but what that kind of down opening piano and that kind of somber, sour, slightly opening piano, it feels stormy. You know, that just opening, that just like dark and stormy night piano. I'm like, oh, this song's gonna be a drag to listen to. But then it picks up later. It picks up quickly and becomes kind of like, a darker rock song on this album. Even darker in some ways than Devastation and Reform, because Devastation and Reform is just like a full frontal assault, right, of a rock song on this album. But this album has a lot of... This song is couched between two of Relient K's most poppy songs, The Best Thing and Must Have Done Something Right. And I think I can take almost every other song on this album other than Forgiven. And maybe Plead the Fifth, because Plead the Fifth is just kind of like a throwaway, fun little way of opening the album. But like, I feel like this is the least pop-oriented song on the entire album, which is funny to think then it was on Wow Worship and it was released to radio stations, Christian radio stations specifically, because I could never imagine Forgiven being on regular radio. Like, The Best Thing, I Need You, Come Right Out. I'm looking at the list right now. Come Right Out and Say It, I Need You, Best Thing, Must Have Done Something Right, Give Until There's Nothing Left, Devastation and Reform, I'm Taking You With Me. I can imagine all of those songs playing on regular radio, but I can't imagine Forgiven playing on regular radio.
I can't imagine any of those playing on Christian radio.
I guess that's true. But so this feels like the least pop-oriented song. Like, I feel like even Deathbed, for being as like deep and
some
dramatic,
college radio station has 100% played all 11 minutes of Deathbed.
Right. But there's poppy melodies within Deathbed. I don't even think the melodies within Forgiven are that poppy. So I just think it's funny that it's also this early in the album, because this feels like a late album track to me. And all of this sounds disparaging to the track overall. I think this is a really interesting song, but it kind of fights me to listen to it, especially with that opening thunder, that opening rainy piano, that dark and stormy piano. Like, I listen to the opening chords of this song and I think, oh, this is going to be a drag. And then it picks up and I'm like, oh no, I like this song. This is a very 5 Score song. But it's just the sort of, it's also like the darkest song on the album, which is funny because, Deathbed literally deals with death. Like, what on paper sounds darker than that? But Deathbed is such, musically, I know you wouldn't know this, but musically, Deathbed is such a poppy, upbeat number for a lot of it, that it doesn't come off that dark. But Forgiven comes off as a very dark song. It's almost like that color theory thing where you see a picture and you just pull out like the 5 colors that are in there.
Right.
Like when I am done listening to Forgiven and I'm like, what's the feeling you have left over from that song? I'm like, kind of like dark and a little foreboding and a little, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like even though there are light, brighter moments within Forgiven, like the sort of ska-esque upstrokes and like, you know, the chorus is very, I will be forgiven. Like there's uplifting moments within Forgiven. I'm still left with this like sort of color palette feeling of it's the darkest song musically, sonically on the album. And then it's funny that it is also the most penitent, the most Christian song, one of the 2 most Christian songs on the album is along with Deathbed. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I think that this is an odd bird. It's an odd bed. It's an odd bed on the track. On that CD. On the album. Anyway.
You know, it's funny because this week I'm you from what was it, I think last week or 2 weeks ago technically, or maybe the week before, where it was like I didn't do a big listen through. I didn't take a lot of notes. I did not already pre-dive into the lyrics.
Well, this is what it sounds like.
No, I know. Thank you, Danny. Oh my gosh, it took me a second to figure out what you were doing. No, I listened to it at least once. I don't know. It's just that I don't know what my thing is with 5 Score. I don't know, because I love the 5 Score lineup like so much. Like the 5 Score lineup owns my heart. I don't know.
Right, this is the first. It's funny that, this is also.
Yeah, I don't know what my deal is.
Because in a lot of ways, sometimes feels like the first John and John album, but it's not. Brian's on that album.
Yeah.
But almost immediately from that tour, John and John joined the band and Brian had left.
Exactly. That's the thing, is that the first time I saw Relient K live, the Johns were already in the band.
Right.
Because it's
We'd
2005.
already met before this album came out, and the Johns were already in the band.
Well, we met after my first show, but yes, yeah. Like that summer, the summer before we met was my first Relient K show.
We were together by the time this album came out, which I kind of forget.
Yeah. Yeah, we were.
Which doesn't really mean anything
I
to
remember,
anyone.
I remember sitting in
for
my,
me.
right, I remember sitting, I had a townhouse that my parents had gotten me for college, and I remember sitting in the office and on my big MacBook computer, and like you were hanging out, and I was like, oh, I got from iTunes the new Relient K single, and you came to listen to Must Have Done Something Right with me. I totally have that memory.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. My office with my drum set in the corner with the Kiss tapestry thing hanging above it.
And this makes sense to why 5 Score was the first Relient K album that I didn't buy the week it came out, because I finally had a girlfriend and I was too.
We've talked about this before. The albums that came out while we were in college, we were very much like so focused on college because unlike most colleges, our college was very like intensive. Not that all college is intensive. Just listen to college kids. Our college was like, you went like straight through. We didn't get summer breaks or anything. We did not get many breaks. It was, you know, an accelerated program that we were in. So
there was no time for new stuff.
Right. We were very in what we were in with our studies. You
Right.
did not have the time to have like a job or anything. So yeah. Anyway, this track was produced by Howard Benson.
Okay.
Like many of the tracks off of this album. And Ned Brower of Rooney also provided vocals for this track, as well as I Need You. So if you hear another sort of more prominent voice that you can't place, it's Ned Brower.
Gotcha. Well, with that, we will take our break and we'll come back to do the deep dive on the lyrics and then whatever other deep dive you have. This episode looks like, hey, it's our first episode back after an impromptu week off. So it's going to be a long one. We'll be right back. We just want to take a moment to thank you for listening to Sadie Hawkins Pod. Whether you've been listening for a while or this is your first time, we want to hear your thoughts on this episode. your corrections, and your Relient K memories at our voicemail line, which is 402-95-SADIE.
And if talking on the phone isn't your thing, because I know it's not mine, and whose is it really, you can send us an email to sadiehawkinspod@gmail.com, or visit our socials at Instagram and Twitter, which are both at SadieHawkinsPod. While there, you can also see the visuals we discuss on the podcast each week.
You can also visit SadieHawkinsPod.com for easy access to all these links, as well as to our merch store for shirts, mugs, stickers, and more.
We also want to thank our patrons at patreon.com/SadieHawkinsPod, who include Emily, Charity, Isaac, Kendall, Joshua, Timothy, Daniel, Jay, Joel, Connor, Michael, Samantha, Jimmy Eat Pod, This Might Be a Podcast, Tucker, and Brady.
Join our Patreon now for 2 monthly bonus episodes, our entire backlog of bonus episodes, which include reviews of the K's for Karaoke songs and chapters of the complex infrastructure known as the Female Mind book. You'll also get stickers, guitar picks, and a special Patreon exclusive shirt when you've donated a lifetime contribution of $60.
Ooh, that sounds like fun. Where can I sign up again?
At patreon.com/SadieHawkinsPod. If you want to be a patron of the arts, the fine arts, the podcast arts, there's one place to go.
SadieHawkinsPod.com/ oh, wait, no, that's not it. I'm sorry,
Jessica!
I panicked.
Let's get into the lyrics specifically, and we have the booklet. We actually have the booklet. No looking at Genius, no looking at Google lyrics or whatever, where things are fallible. We're actually going to read right out of the booklet. This is from the special edition with the bonus DVD included.
Fancy.
So Forgiven, which is track 5 off of the album. I know my Roman numerals because all the tracks are numbered with Roman numerals in the booklet. The lyrics start off, "Oh yes, I know this tension that you speak of."
Sorry.
"Oh yes, I know this tension that you speak of. We're in the palm of a hand making a fist. It'd be best for one of us to speak up. But
It'd be best, matey.
It'd be best.
It'd be best.
It'd be best for one of us to speak up, but we prefer to pretend it does not exist."
Oh my gosh, we're baby pacifists?
We're baby pacifists throwing fists. Okay, you know what's funny
Shake
here?
our fists, yeah.
So, right off the bat, this is about two friends who are having a come right out and say it fight. So there's a possibility here that it is about Brian Pittman, but this could also technically be about the girlfriend, the famous girlfriend that I always feel like it's too trite to bring up, because isn't come right out and say it about her as well? Like we know for a fact, right? Or is it the other song from the opening of that's definitely about Catherine?
It's the other song, Danny.
Okay. Well, we also said that Come Right Out and Say It is probably also about Catherine. But
That's it. We're just the gossip podcast now.
But what if there's we're just the gossip podcast. But what if there's a possibility that Forgiven is about
Catherine? Ew, I hate you.
I just feel like she's so famous, and like, you know, you're like one of those people that thinks Courtney Love killed Kurt Cobain because she's the most famous person in his life that would have benefited from his death. It's like, oh, is every song about Catherine?
You know what?
Oh, is every Mark Hoppus? Is every Mark Hoppus song about Tom DeLonge?
This is funny, actually, because I watched a documentary years ago about that, and being younger than you, I was not like a grunge person. Yeah, okay. I was not a grunge person. I was not into Nirvana, not a Kurt Cobain fan.
What Katy Perry documentary?
No,
which is only the one I know of.
No, so I had watched a documentary, and then like Danny and I were talking later, and I was like, "Oh, I watched this documentary." I was like, "Danny, I know you're a fan. Where do you stand on that?" And he's like, "Oh, he did not kill himself." I was like, "Oh my gosh!"
Well, he didn't kill himself.
I'm married to one of those people. I'm married to one of those. Oh, okay.
But we talked about this in our Nancy Drew episode. I'm not a person who's like, my answer is you're like, well, if Kurt Cobain didn't kill himself, who did? I'm like, someone else.
Danny does not care about a mystery.
I know exactly who killed Kurt Cobain. Somebody. That's a noun. That's a person. Somebody. I don't care who it was.
Kurt Cobain
I'll literally
himself
never
included.
know. When no one will ever know. I don't think Kurt Cobain by himself committed suicide. I do think something else happened. Now, I
sure
don't
someone
think
had to provide the drugs.
I don't think that any of I definitely don't think it's the guy from NoFX or any of that
What?
stuff. There's theories about that. I don't think it's anyone that has. It's like we'll be able to
Do you
ask
think
God when we get to
it
heaven.
was Big Mike, Fat Tony. What's his name?
Fat Tony.
The main guy? Is that who they think it was?
No, I can't remember. I don't remember. One of the guys from NoFX. There's a theory, but I don't care. Whatever. My point is, people are like, "Oh, it was Courtney Love," and like it's like, no, you just think it was Courtney Love because that's literally you only know of 3 people that were in Kurt Cobain's life. You know, Dave Grohl, Chris Novoselic, and Courtney Love. Those are the only 3 people you know were in his life. But you don't know who lived in his neighborhood. You don't know who was in the bars or restaurants he frequented. You don't know, like, if he went to, the grocery store, who he had conversations with. Like, you literally don't know the people in any famous person's life. So then you focus on, like, the weird little, like, threads of some person that happened to be in a documentary once, or the most famous people related to him. So, like, you'll never know who killed Kurt Cobain. I do not think he killed himself by himself. I don't think that. But whoever killed him, I don't know who it is because I literally don't know all the people in his life. Like, I can't make that call. So, anyway, but I know one thing for certain. Forgiven is about Katy Perry.
I think it's about Katy Perry at all. I think we are like long gone after that chapter by the time we get here.
Well, I do think that Come Right Out and Say It is about her and about them deciding to break up at that point because they were both moving on with their careers in different directions. But Forgiven, which is only 4 tracks later, it could be about Brian Pittman, it could be about someone else that we have no idea, or it could be about her. Doesn't matter. The opening lines of this song is, we're in the palm of a hand making a fist. It'd be best for one of us to speak up, but we prefer to pretend it does not exist, which is the same sentiment as Come Right Out and Say It. But it's also something that happens with people that you care about and love, where you're having resentment build up. You're having like, oh, that person should care about me enough to know something's wrong. I'm going to wait until they figure it out. Instead of just speaking up and saying, hey, you're doing this thing to me and I don't feel this is right. And coincidentally, 2 different podcasts I listened to this week. One was an interview with Catbite, the ska band, on the Punk News podcast, and the other podcast was Ethan Lux and Clint's podcast, Metal Up Your Podcast. Both of them mentioned in a Q&A style about how one of the most important things you can do as a band is, if there's tension, immediately address it like grown-ups. Never hide it. And then we've, like, 2 completely different podcasts both mention that if you're in a band, you have to speak up when there's a resentment immediately and never hide it and never just let it fester.
Was Metal Up Your Podcast specifically about Metallica this past week?
No, it was just a Q&A
okay.
from the patrons, and it was a couple weeks back that I just caught up with. It wasn't even like they were both podcasts that came out this week. They were just 2 podcasts I caught up with.
Gotcha.
So it makes me think even more that it's more possible it could be Brian Pittman or someone in their camp specifically that they're working with.
You've also got that palm of the hand imagery here. Mm-hmm. And like, what does that immediately, you hear like in your palms or whatever, what does that immediately make you think of? God. It
right.
absolutely does. Like, Palm Sunday, that's a different kind of thing. But I mean, like, he's got the whole world in
Psalms,
his hands kind of
Psalms
thing.
kind of sound like palms.
He's got the whole world in his hands. There's a lot of, like, palm of the hand imagery associated with Christianity, of course, being crucified and everything on the cross.
Right. And then the next lines, you immediately get more kind of Christian iconography of saying, the next lyrics are, and you can't see past the blood on my hands to see that you've been aptly damned to fail and fail again. And then the chorus is, because we're all guilty of the same things. We think the thoughts whether or not we see them through. And I know that I have been forgiven, and I just hope you can forgive me too. So a couple things there. Like the blood on the hands, like, caught red-handed, you are guilty. Caught red-handed is about guilt, like you're guilty in the eyes of the law. You're guilty in the eyes of the Lord. Also, there's concepts in Christianity about being washed in the blood, which is not the specific kind of blood they're talking about here, but there's so much importance in blood in Christianity that it's just like all kind of in one tone poem feeding into this idea that you are guilty, you have blood on your hands, and like we're all guilty of the same thing. We're all guilty of the sin of falling. We're all inherently sinful. We all have the inherent ability to sin, and we need God's grace. That's the sort of the tentpole tenements of Christian faith.
I just want to say, this is like the harshest lyric ever. This, I mean, we talk about diss tracks. This is a diss track.
Right.
Like, and you can't see past the blood in my hands to see that you've been aptly damned to fail and fail again.
Oh, yo mama.
Like, whoa.
And yeah.
To fail and fail again, that's so rough. Like, everyone fears failure. That's so harsh.
It is harsh. It's not the same kind of harsh, and I don't see it as the same kind of harsh and problematic as like, mood rings or what have you been doing lately. These are still human concepts.
That's a completely different category.
Right. These are things about Christianity that within the construct of the church, within the construct of your institution, put these concepts in the hands of people who abuse their power and abuse the people they have power over, like over their congregation or over their communities. Like, you can like hurt people by making them feel like they're guilty, making them feel like they're overly guilty. Like, there is that aspect of it. We talk about that on this podcast all the time. But I do think that there is some truth in the idea that we're all sinful, because I just think that's true no matter what your faith is. Like, humans inherently, and it comes up later in the song, think about themselves. Humans have the inherent evolutionary trait to live for themselves. So when you see something as a threat to you, you strike out against it because you need to survive. So that's a human thing that happens. And then through things like religion or, just deeper thought, through introspection and through intelligence, we learn to try to live for others. We learn to forgive, which are not necessarily instinctual concepts to learn to forgive. And so this is a harsh song to say, like, hey, I made you angry, you made me angry, but hey, you mess up all the time too, just like I do. Why don't you forgive me? Right. I'll forgive you too. Like, sometimes in forgiveness there's an anger, like, look, I'm sorry, but like, you hurt me and I hurt you. Like, you can't just be the only one who's mad at me right now.
Yeah, sort of looking at it in the way of like, we all sin because we all do. That's just the way of humanity. That's sort of the lighter way of looking at right. it. It's because we all know that we will be forgiven.
Right.
It's that, like, you've been aptly damned to fail and fail again. Like, if it only meant in that sinning sort of way that we're all forgiven for, that's one thing. But if you take that and given the context that we have been given from Thiessen himself, it's like Thiessen is putting himself in that role of God, and he's like, yes, you're forgiven, but like, you're damned to fail and fail again. That's rough.
Which he's saying, just like me, I'm set to fail and fail again. But it's still rough to like call that out on another person. It is harsh. But I do think that even in a secular sense, even in a worldly sense, like, those are concepts that are true. I just try to take these ideas and I like, do these ideas have any value outside of the church, right? Do these ideas that you set forth have value to someone who has never heard about Christ specifically? And I think there is some value to think here that, like, you're constantly doing wrong, I'm constantly doing wrong. Let's try to forgive each other and move on. And let's forgive each other because there's no going forward. There's no value in just like constantly holding a fist to each other. Now, let's talk about this one. Let's get deeper.
Oh boy.
Because I already read it out loud. Let me read it again. Because we're all guilty of the same things. We think the thoughts whether or not we see them through. Jessica, how do you feel about the sin of thought? How do you feel about the sin of thought?
Oh my gosh, I know where he's going with this. I know exactly where he's going with
Because
this.
your hero, Jimmy Carter, cheated on his wife in his mind. And he admitted it in Playboy magazine.
Stop. Okay.
I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago.
First of all,
Jessica watched a documentary about Jimmy Carter. And later that day or the next day, she was like, I watched a documentary about Jimmy Carter. He was a very wonderful man.
He still is.
He's
an
a
amazing
very wonderful
humanitarian.
Man. Like, say what you will about his presidency, this or that, but he, as a person, was a very great person, a Christian, and she didn't say this. He was
going to say Danny's extrapolating here,
right?
But
he was a woke Christian in the 70s, which was
straight up.
And then I said to her, and then I said to Jessica while she's telling me this, is like, well, he had an interview in Playboy magazine where he admitted he cheated on his wife, and Jessica was a little crestfallen, and she's like, men in power, that happens, and I'm like, well, hold on. Because there's this very infamous interview that Jimmy Carter gave in Playboy magazine where he admitted he cheated on his wife, but he was like, in my mind, I've thought about other women and therefore I've cheated. He never actually physically cheated that we know of on his wife. And Jessica was like, oh.
Who hasn't? Who is not guilty of sinning in thought?
And the thing about sinning in thought is I think that it's almost like, okay, maybe I don't want to get into that yet, but I'll get into that in a second.
No.
Sinning in thought, there is a line. There's an invisible line where sinning in thought does, I think, become sin. Like when you revel
do not think about killing people. That's messed up.
But that's
Please
the thing.
Get help.
That's the thing, is like, yeah, like you think about sex or you think about drinking when you're supposed to be sober or you think about this or that. Like, okay, that's one thing. You fantasize about something you're not really supposed to do. That's one thing. But you fantasize about certain things that really are bad. I don't want to name them. But you think about things that really, really are bad. Like, that's pretty fucked up. And, like, that actually is a sin if you're just wantonly letting yourself think about those things. But if you just think about, like, cheating on your wife or something, like, hey, who hasn't done that? She's not paying attention.
I am. Who hasn't? Right? Who hasn't?
But at the same point,
even you think subconsciously, in a dream, accidentally, you don't know, like.
So there is an invisible line, I feel like, and it really is just per the person, where like you think too much about murder, and eventually you just really revel in that, and you want to do it. You think too much about other like socially really awful things, and I don't want to name them. I keep hitting the dead flowers on the table. You think about...
That's so poetic. I keep hitting the dead flowers on the table, and now April's upset.
So I think there's a point where when you revel in an awful idea for too long, that is bad. And April agrees. April agrees with me. And so the idea, wherever it started thousands of years ago, of saying like thinking about that thing is equal to the sin, well, no, that isn't inherently true. But there are some people who are going to think about that sin so much.
It's called manifesting.
That it's just, yeah, it's called The Secret. So, getting back to the lyrics, I guess this is a song where I got the gist of it and I thought it was just a faith-based song about grace and forgiveness, but he is directly referencing here another person, someone who you can't capitalize the pronouns, where he says, because we're all guilty of the same things, we think the thoughts whether or not we see them through, and I know I have been forgiven. I just hope that you can forgive me too. I don't know if on Genius or Google Lyrics or any of that, the "you can forgive me too" is capitalized, but like here we know from what he wrote, what Matt Thiessen shared in the WoW 2008 CD, that the "you" is referring to the friend that he did wrong, and that in turn did him wrong.
Yeah, it's definitely saying, I know that I have been forgiven.
I know
overall
I have been forgiven by
by
God.
God.
I just hope that you, friend on earth, can forgive me too.
Yeah.
So if that you is capitalized online, this is one case where that's I feel that's undeniably incorrect, because he's talking about his forgiveness in Christ at the same time he's talking about a friend who he's hoping will forgive him. And I guess we'll just blow through the rest of these lyrics because this is a long episode. So don't you dare blame me for prying open the door that's unleashed the bitterness that's here in the midst of this. Sometimes we live for no one but ourselves, and what we've been striving for has turned into nothing more than bodies limp on the floor. Victims of falling short, we kiss goodbye the cheek of our true love. We kiss goodbye the cheek of our true love.
That's heavy, though. Like, let the bodies hit the floor. Let the bodies hit the floor.
I can only count to 4. I can only count to 4. Psycho Stick, I can only count to 4. Check it out. I'll just leave it at that. Google it right now. YouTube. So those are the lyrics to Forgiven. So we kiss goodbye the cheek of our true love. Do you think that's Brian Pittman, or do you think that's Catherine? Those are the only two famous people we know that were in Matt Thiessen's life. Therefore, they're the only people that this song could be about.
I mean, I don't know anything about that, but let's see what the good folks over at Song Meanings have, because that is the only deep dive I have for this week outside of the not official, but outside of the actual Wikipedia for the song itself.
Okay.
And song facts, which we already went over. This is a pretty long one, but I think they really do dive into the song, so I'm going to go over it.
Okay.
2 Tiger 25 on March 31st,
Tiger King.
2008 said, don't pretend like we have seen that. We haven't
I've never seen Tiger King.
I absolutely love this song. It completely related to a situation I had with a friend or ex-friend. Anyways, it helped me get through that really tough time with her because I would listen to it again and again. I am a Christian and I believe that Jesus saved us all from sin. We are forgiven just as this song says. So now about the meaning. I think it's a pretty straightforward song. The first part talks about, I know this tension that you speak of. We're in the palm of a hand making a fist. This is stating that there's conflict between two people and they are in a fight. I really like Matt's lyrics, palm of a hand making a fist, because you can visualize this. It's like they're getting crushed, just like their relationship. The fist is also a symbol of anger because you make a fist when you are mad. I would say duh here, but it feels like that's a little bit kindergarten. It'd be best for one of us to speak up, but we prefer to pretend it does not exist. Pretty straight up, the two people in the fight or argument are ignoring the problem and not discussing it, even though they know it would be better to talk about it and try and work it out. Basically, they aren't talking.
We can work it out.
Exactly.
We can work it out.
Oh no,
That's a song by the Monkees.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Danny, you're playing with fire here. We're getting a little bit too close to.
Oh yeah, the
folks.
Beatles are gonna
Yeah.
the Beatles are gonna make this episode unlistenable again.
You can't see past the blood on my hands to see that you've been aptly damned to fail and fail again. The other person in the fight just can't find the inner strength to forgive the narrator. They can't look past what the person did, even if they say they were sorry and meant it. The opposer thinks that what the person did is far worse than anything he/she has ever done, even though it's not true, because we all have sinned and will continue sinning, fail and fail again. Because we're guilty of the same things. We think the thoughts, whether or not we see them through. This is similar to what I just said about the pre-chorus, about how everyone sins. But it goes further to say that thinking evil thoughts is equally sinful as committing the physical sin. This is an important message that should be emphasized more than it is. And I know that I have been forgiven, and I just hope you can forgive me too. I love this part of the chorus. It's saying that I know that because I have prayed to God and asked for his forgiveness, I know that he has forgiven me because all sins were forgiven when Jesus died for us, even if this person never forgives you, but you just hope they will. You know that you have been forgiven by God, who matters way more than this person. So don't you blame me for prying open the door that's unleashed the bitterness. That's here in the midst of this. This is the narrator speaking to the person that refuses to forgive them. They're saying that you need to open up to the part of you that contributed to this problem, because I did not start this all by myself. I have owned up to what I have done to cause it and have prayed for forgiveness. Now it's your turn. Don't just put the blame on me. Look at yourself and what you've done. And that's in all caps. Sometimes we live for no one but ourselves. This, I think, means the opposer is saying that the narrator caused all of the problems because it makes them feel better and less guilty about their part in the argument. Or, my other theory is, the narrator is saying, I know that what I did was wrong. I was being selfish and only focusing on my life and what is best for me, rather than considering others, the consequences, and I'm sorry. I really want to hear other ideas, though. And then they follow this up by saying, I really don't get what Matt is talking about in this next part of the verse. Does anyone else want to explain it to me? The only line that I don't understand is, we kiss goodbye on the cheek of our true love. I bet that a lot of people would hear that and immediately think of a dating relationship or romance, but true love can be with friends or family too. It's saying that since we have been so immature about this whole situation by ignoring it and not talking, we have basically destroyed the amazing thing that we had. And the kissing goodbye isn't like an I'll see you soon goodbye. It's like, I'll miss you because I'll never see / have you again. It's so sad. From then on there, it's just repeat, but it's still amazing, moving and deep. And I really want people's thoughts on the part of the verse, on that part of the verse too, that I don't understand. Thanks so much. P.S. My comment is so long. I just think about this song like every day and want to
Sorry
get it
the
all
episode's
out.
so long.
Sorry the episode's so long. We just don't do it every day and need to get it out. So
TLDL, too long, didn't listen.
Oh, wow. People are getting feisty in the comments as they get further down.
Oh, do they get as feisty as the
no.
Marilyn Manson ate my girlfriend? Patreon.com/Sadie Hawkins Pod, where we read through the Marilyn Manson ate my girlfriend song meanings. And we're like, oh, okay, they're dropping F slurs right now. I guess we'll skip that one.
Well, another commenter later calls this particular commenter a moron. JHPIV4 on December 1st, 2006 said, yay, I'm the first to post. Anyway, I think the song is a big disappointment. That's what it's about. No, I'm just kidding. It shows one of the directions Relient K has sadly chosen to take. The actual message is great, but the presentation is rather morbid if you ask me. Like the part that talks about bodies limp on the floor, which is just nasty to me. Sure, the love between them may have died.
You know there's worse stuff in the Bible, right? There's like beheaded people and there's like ejaculating on the ground.
Oh, good Lord. Daniel Joseph.
There is.
I understand what they're saying here. Anyways, they continue. But surely there's a better way to say it. I also don't like how
Spills
close...
his seed to the ground.
Daniel.
He knew the child would not be his.
I also don't like how close... It's called come. I also don't like how close it comes to some bad language in the lines to see...
We can say whatever we want on this episode because we're forgiven. We can make a deathbed confession.
My deathbed confession is that I refuse to listen to that song. I also don't like how close it comes to some bad language in the lines to see that you've been aptly damned. They could have said condemned, but they didn't. I love Relient K and always will, but this trend of unnecessary morbidity is a sad,
so they're
sad
upset
thing for
that
me.
they used the word damned, which
They're
is, again,
not.
in the Bible. It's in the Bible. It's a
Right.
Bible swear, like the word ass.
They are not going to be happy with one collapsible lung and two when they get to the Halloween EP, the creepier EPer.
When there's blood growing cold. They're definitely not going to be happy when they see Third Day play
Chainsaws.
Sweet Home Alabama.
A fan who likes their upbeat pop/punk style better, like is fond of two laughs.
Oi! Relient K used to be more British and more punk rock. Yes, it's true. Relient K used to be more British and punk rock.
Tevestev, or Tehsteev, on December 3rd, 2006 said, to the last commenter, "You're a moron. Damned is not a cursed word, especially in this sense. And this is a great song. I can't wait for this album." So there you go. Definitely released ahead of time.
That person was condemning the words of God, because damned is in the Bible, and the Bible is the complete word of God. Therefore, the word damned is a word of God.
Right.
And so is the word seed was spilled upon the ground.
Well, I mean,
you can edit that out if you want.
Translations and whatnot. Anyhow, Ler, on December 1st, 2006 said, well, technically damned isn't bad language in that case. It just means exactly the same thing as condemned. I don't see this song as too morbid. I mean, it's more morbid than any of the previous stuff, but I liked how it raised up in hope in the choruses. And I feel that without the darkness of the verses, the light choruses wouldn't have shined quite so bright. My 2 cents smiley face. And I agree with that, because we always talk about how no matter how dark Relient K songs get, they always leave you with a sense of hope. So I liked that comment.
How do you think they felt when Relient K covered Tom Petty and they told the whole world to shove it?
Oh boy. I don't know, but you know what? I'm gonna leave the rest of song meanings here. Maybe we'll cover it on Patreon. Maybe we won't. Let us know, patrons, if you're interested in that. They keep going for a while. Oh my gosh, there's 5 pages of them, in fact. So
we'll do all of them over at patreon.com/Sadie Hawkinspod.
So Dan, what do you have for us this week?
Well, I'm loving it, because Relient K played this on the McDonald's live tour. I think, Jessica, you deserve a break today. So we get to come back to this McDonald's live video, which we covered.
It took me a second for
right.
You deserve a break.
Yeah, that's an old one. Well, we covered, so I think, there's no track list on this video, but this was an 11-minute video uploaded by Amanda Gayton on YouTube 14 years ago, the McDonald's live concert, where Relient K did this, McDonald's sponsored concert in around 2007. And I'll say that this is also a song that Relient K played out a little bit, quite a bit during the year after 57 years ago, but it doesn't seem to have remained a staple. And I guess that's another thing, is this kind of became an album cut over the time. Maybe if they kept playing it more after 2007, 2008, and I'm sure there are incidents, I didn't look on set list, I'm sure there's times where it was played here and there, but it wasn't played, as far as I could tell, during the Switchfoot tour in 2016. It wasn't played at Yeah. So this has become kind of a deeper cut on the album overall, and a song that they really seem to have only played for a year or two after the album came out.
Yeah, that's interesting.
It seems like it took a backseat to bigger songs.
Right. I wonder if they played it at the Relient K show we went to together in 2007.
Oh, right.
And I'm like, I could not tell you a single song that was played that night outside of the Weezer song that I didn't know when they did the little campfire thing.
So here is Relient K. Oh, here is so we talked about this McDonald's live concert in Madison, Wisconsin, 2007, because in this YouTube video, at least 11 minutes long, are the performances of The Best Thing, Pink Tux to the Prom, and Forgiven. So we get to round out the trilogy of this McDonald's live video by Amanda Gayton by covering the Forgiven performance.
Is the McDonald's cheese better in Wisconsin? Do they go local, or is it still just, whatever McDonald's cheese is made out of and purchased abroad?
I'm sure it's got to be the same quality all across the country.
Well, I don't know, because we went to McDonald's
in France.
in France.
And
but
the bread was awful because it was
Yes.
probably it probably had no preservatives in it.
But we also went to one just for iced tea
In Hawaii.
on
it
our
was the
honeymoon,
best,
and it was
yeah.
amazing. They did their own like tropical like iced tea at that
I don't know.
location. It was fantastic.
I just feel like
So-
cheese. I feel like the cheese and the beef are the two things that you got to do the same everywhere. I could be wrong. I don't know. But we'll think about that while we play this performance.
Oh yes, I know attention that you speak of. When in the palm of a hand making a fist, it'd be best for one of us to speak of. But we prefer to pretend it does not exist. You can't see past the part of my head to see you've been happy, damned to fail and fail again. 'Cause we're all guilty of all the same. We think the thoughts of whether or not we see them through. It's like I have been not just you can't forgive me too.
The drums are so overpowering
Yeah.
here, like those cymbals. OMG.
I should mention this is a pro shot concert. This isn't Amanda Gayton's phone video.
Oh, okay, interesting.
This is a pro shot video with multiple cameras.
Oh, okay, interesting.
It's probably like, I don't know this for certain, but I think it was like live streamed on like McDonald'sLive.com or something at the time. And Amanda Gayton was just the
Interesting.
person who
Okay.
like saved the video
Okay.
and uploaded it to YouTube later. So yeah, what did you think of that performance? I can kind of see why that was great. If you like this song, I'm sure it'd be fun to see it live. But there wasn't like, it's not like this song brings some sort of special energy live.
Right,
I
you
can
know-
kind of see why this would end up on the back burner compared to other songs that kind of lead the show.
Right. I was definitely like, you know what? Listening to it after we get past that little Coldplay bit, I'm like, this is definitely a jam. And it is definitely Coldplay of that time, like 100%. I mean, you're not going to convince me otherwise. Anyway, it is like, it is a jam. It totally is a jam, but in that way that like all Relient K songs are a jam.
Yeah,
you know?
like something's got to get
Yeah,
left out. And
yeah.
I feel like I get why Forgiven maybe hasn't
Exactly.
stayed a part of the live
yeah.
show. Well, here is, we can compare it to this one from the same year. Again, like all I have is 2007. Oh, I have one from 2013, but we'll play one more from 2007 and see how this compares. This is uploaded by, I'll have to just spell this name, ICINDEXI. Uploaded this video 15 years ago with less than 1,000 views after all these decade and a half. This is a really, for a 2007 camera, this came out pretty well. So here is a performance at the Electric Factory in Philadelphia, March 10th, 2007.
Oops. I knew I was going to do that. It's only the second day. I played it in the wrong key. Here we go.
I think this is just like a month or two before we saw them together in 2007, so they
okay.
probably did play this.
What
okay, they're bringing a lot more energy to Philadelphia than they brought to Madison, Wisconsin for the McDonald's concert. Maybe there was a sound ordinance for McDonald's. But I still stand by the idea that there are other songs in Relient K's repertoire that, this song doesn't necessarily are in the same caliber, and that this song doesn't necessarily compete with those when you've got to fill out a set list.
It's odd because I sort of oscillate between totally digging this song and being like, oof. In that first minute, it's just that intro that really throws me for some reason.
Maybe it's harder to play live, and maybe because they were like, well, we have Devastation and Reform, which scratches a similar itch. And Devastation Reforms maybe it's a little easier and more fun to play than this. Maybe this is a little too complex to play live. Maybe.
I mean, it's not that they play it not well live. They do play it well live. I think it's just a little too like, oof, they're going with that like they're ahead of the curve, and they're going with that like, we are a Christian band and we're gonna play something that's like Coldplay. Maybe.
Right.
And I mean, especially of that time, because I actually saw Coldplay live in 2006. So like of that same sort of era of Coldplay, that just, I don't know, something about that intro is just a little too that specific vein for me.
Yeah, I guess I get that. So let's hear it in which the latest version that I could find on YouTube, whether or not they played this in up to 2016 or at a random show at Yeah that didn't get captured. This is the latest clip that I have. Only 7 views by Gretchen Hartsook.
Well, let's make it 8.
We're about to be the 8th person to view this in 9 years. This is a clip, a 30-second clip of Relient K playing this at some unnamed concert.
Oh, wow, okay.
In 2013. Barring that this isn't like an upload they uploaded 4 years later, 4 or 5 years later. And it is John and John on stage, so...
Yeah, they're rocking it.
Yeah, so it's not... Whether or not this is the writing of Collapsible Lung has commenced and the recording of Collapsible Lung has commenced at this point. John and John and Ethan were still in the band by the time Collapsible Lung was partially being performed live. So, I don't know how late this is. Oh, this was uploaded in August of 2013, so whether or not, again... That's around the time that this performance is. They're rocking it, and they are forgiven for not playing it after this. And that's where the clip ends. That's all they got.
Okay.
So that is the latest that I was able to find of Relient K performing this.
It's funny because I was going to ask you on the next one to skip in a little, so I'm really glad that the 30 seconds they got was in a little bit.
Yeah, and I'm looking, and they've got a lot of videos about St. Luke's Lutheran Church Praise Band, Newsboys clip, Run Kid Run, more Newsboys Live covering Jesus Freak, Jimmy Eat World, classic Christian band.
Whoa.
Jimmy Eat World playing The Middle. Tons of Jimmy Eat World, just
wow.
Christian band after Christian band, and then Jimmy Eat World.
Shout out David Park and Jimmy Eat Pod.
Yeah. The Postal Service. I was just trying to see if maybe there's some other Relient K clips around the same time that we could see where this was. Okay, here's a Sadie Hawkins dance clip. Nope. No reference there. Here's Who I Am, Hates Who I've Been. Nope. No mention of where they played that.
Is this at the same time? Like, is it? Did they?
Yeah,
upload
they're
this
uploaded at the same
time.
time.
Okay.
But they didn't put a description in any of these clips. Oh, there was an Office theme song. I might have... Nope, not there. Mood Rings. Nope. What's the oldest Relient K clip that they have? Forgiven. That's the one we just played. Devastation and Reform. Here we go. Devastation and Reform. Still no mention to where they are. Oh well. Okay. Let's see. This is a song that does not really have a lot of covers. There is an acoustic cover by Stevens Especial. There is a vocal cover with piano by Deviant Kiragishi. And there's a full band cover by Buck Chamberlain on SoundCloud.
I thought you were going to say Buck Cherry. I got really excited for a second there.
And another piano cover by Aaron Wewell. And those are really the only covers to speak of. Oh, there's one special cover that I'll play in just a second. And then there's a lot of piano. There's a lot of drum covers, like play-along drum covers, obviously.
Sure.
There's play-along guitar covers. And there's a piano and guitar duo play-along cover. But the only cover I'll play here, because you know what? It's getting late. We'll do song meanings and the other 4 covers behind the paywall. But first, I'll play this cover. This is the only cover I'll play.
Ooh.
I didn't check it out myself, so I'm hearing it for the first time right now. That's right, it's the Chiptune cover by Chiptune Planet.
Ooh, I love it.
Chiptune versions are always interesting because then you can kind of really just like sit there and study the melody. I think chiptune covers are kind of like one of the best ways to really examine if a song.
I love that.
Because otherwise, if you hear a chiptune song of a song you like and it's just like the whole time, you're like, okay, there's not much going on. What do you think?
I'm enjoying it.
Good. It's okay.
I like it because unlike some chiptune covers and even piano covers where it takes so long for you to figure out what song it is, here you're immediately like, oh, I know this song. This is Forgiven. I like and appreciate that.
Yeah.
You can definitely suss out which song this is.
For sure. Oh, and then there's this. There's our own Joel Polk, or as we call him, Joel K. Polke, our patron over at patreon.com.
Is it not Joel K. Polke? I thought that
it's Joel Polk. No, he's called up with voicemails and said it's Joel Polk.
Oops. Apologies, Joel Polk. I thought I was saying it right.
Well, our own Joel Polk from Sadie Hawkins Pod / Patreon from patreon.com / Sadie Hawkins Pod. He sent us this rave DJ a while ago, like years. I feel like years ago. Oh my gosh,
wow.
yeah, 2 years ago.
Oh wow, okay.
When we talked about rave DJ 2 years ago, after David Park and Justin of Jimmy Eat Pod originally discovered rave DJ, and we toyed around with it a little bit. I mean, Jimmy Eat Pod regularly use rave DJ. We only use it once in a while. Well, Joel ran a bunch of things through rave DJ. He uploaded one of them for Forgiven by Relient K up to his own YouTube channel. So this is Joel Polk's mashup of Relient K and Skillet's songs. One of these bands I got no problem with. Guess which one it is. But it's still going to be worth checking this out. So here is that cover, that mashup.
One of these bands hasn't been on the 700 Club as far as we know.
Talking about how woke Christianity is the end of the universe. So wait, does Skillet sound like modern Sonic music? Oof. Oof. Which is not Joel's problem. All he did was type in 2 songs.
That Skillet
and an AI tried to
intro,
mash them up.
that Skillet intro was a little too Requiem for a Dream for me.
I skip. The thing about Rave DJ, I didn't set it up for anyone who's never heard us talk about Rave DJ. It's an AI generated mashup of 2 songs. So the thing about that AI trying to mash up the songs is sometimes individual seconds can work and other times can't work. Sometimes a song will mash up perfectly. Like when I mashed up Come Right Out and Say It with Cha Cha Slide. That worked out perfectly. But other times...
Man, if he didn't listen to that for months after...
But other songs may not work, but then like individual seconds will work. So let's just pick a random time out of this 4-minute mashup. This is exactly 2 minutes in, and let's see how Skillet's Forgiven and Relient K's Forgiven work together at 2 minutes in. Nope.
Just an absolute mess with this like singular driving bass drum that you can hear no matter what else is going on in the foreground.
And I guess I won't torture you with fan stuff. This is the kind of video.
Uh-oh.
Well, this is the kind of song that lent itself, like sometimes there'll be one random song. We've come across this all the time on Sadie Hawkins Pod where one particular song brings out one particular artistic group on the internet. Like this song makes everyone want to edit it together a tribute to their horse. This song makes everyone want to edit together a tribute to a Nickelodeon live action sitcom.
Sure.
This song makes everyone want to do that thing. This song, Forgiven, does 2 things. It makes everyone want to put together anime music videos and or live action television show music videos.
Okay.
Or it makes people want to put together slideshows of penitent Christian images.
What about shipping? Any shipping videos?
There is possibly only one shipping video, and it's for American Horror Story characters.
Okay.
Chad and Patrick. I don't even know. I've never watched American Horror Story, so I don't even. One of them.
Flip it around. Let's see.
One of them is
one
Spock.
that I've seen.
What's his name? Spock and Heroes guy.
I don't think I caught this one. I'm not sure I'm familiar.
That's what's his name. That's the guy who plays Spock in the newer Star Trek movies.
Yeah. He's in a couple of those seasons.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it might say right here. Okay, clips from American Horror Story. Not specific enough for us to understand. Song, Forgiven by Relient K. Editing program, Sony Vegas 12. Disclaimer, this video is made for learning, improving, and inspiring purpose. I do not own any of this footage or the song, nor am I claiming to. All rights go to the original and respected owners. So this is uploaded in 2012, years and years before Relient K was accused by the hardline Christian right of being gay affirming. More proof that
there you go. It could be the first season,
people who
actually.
are gay affirming love Relient K, who are gay themselves, LGBTQ plus themselves, love Relient K. It's their fandom. You just get to live in it. Here, loving this particular gay couple from American Horror Story. Now, it's called American Horror Story, so I don't assume things end up well for these two particular
I
fellows.
don't remember, but I was going to say, this song, like, really lends itself to, enemies to lovers.
Well, there they were, feeling up each other's chests, and then the next shot, they were reaching across for each other when I think they were about to die. Spoiler warning for whichever season of American Horror Story this is. I never watched American Horror Story because, like, from the first season, I was like, oh, this is, like, base horror concepts. Like, this is, like, oh, my gosh, I'm so shocked and disgusted. Like, good horror should have, like, well, and I think, like, a couple of the seasons do a little better, like the Witch season, from what you told me.
I did not care for the first season. It was very much just, like, shock and gross for shock and gross sake.
Right.
It was not in pursuit of art or anything. It was just, it very much did not feel, it definitely just felt like it was shock and awe for shock and awe's sake, which I was not a fan of. And then I did watch the Asylum season just because I do like asylum horror. So I was like, well, I'll give it another try because it's like an anthology, so it's not going to be connected to the previous season at all. And then I watched the Witch season, yeah. And those were, I think, a little better. I don't really remember now. It was quite some time ago. So yeah, 2012, that was probably like the first season.
Yeah. I think it was. I'm looking at it. Yep, it's from the first season. Because I was looking, he was only in seasons 1, season 2, and season 11.
Oh, okay.
Zachary Quinto, which season 11 hasn't even started yet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I love horror movies, but American Horror Story, I was like, nah. This is written for, like, people who want to feel like they're into horror. This is like...
Shots fired.
Yeah, shots fired. So a lot more anime slideshows... Sorry, not anime. A lot more anime AMVs.
It's for
and
dark,
a lot of
horny
Christian
teens. That's what it's
slideshows,
for.
yeah. At least 2 Halo videos. And
wow.
And I'm not even going to plug this, but I wrote horse conservative memes slideshow from 2014. Careful.
Always when I take a sip of water. Always.
So there's a bunch of like penitent Christian image slideshows, but then there's one particular one where it's a bunch of 2014 hard right Christian and hard conservative memes just set to this song. And I didn't realize that Black Lives Matter, the concept, I mean, of course, it probably goes back it goes back for a long time, but it's from 2014, and there's images of this person like mocking Black Lives Matters in 2014.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah. As like, hey, this person was on the cusp. This is a breaking edge kind of person who is posting these hard right conservative memes. Set to a band that is not as hard right as you wish they were, sir. Deal with that. Reconcile that.
Yeah.
Christian rock is a lie. They're all just...
Oh, no. Where are we going? Oh.
Patreon.com/Sadie Hawkins Pod to hear what we think about that.
Oh, no.
I don't think that.
Danny, we had this discussion before. You need to be...
We had this discussion before, Danny. Stamp down your personal beliefs. Don't let them out. We need to make the money.
No, not what I said.
We need to
Absolutely
make the
not.
money,
Oh,
so
yeah.
pretend that we're gay affirming.
What? No. Stop. Oh, my gosh. How do we end this now? No. Damn it, Danny.
What's funny about everything I just did in the last few minutes is it offends everyone.
Yeah.
It makes people who we want to keep listening to us confused about where I stand. And it makes the people who I don't want to listen to us confused about whether or not we stand with them.
Thank you for listening. I'm sorry for whatever that just was. I'm so lost.
Okay, I won't get ironic. On this podcast, we believe science is real. We believe Black Lives Matter. We believe all those other things from that sign. We do believe those things. Did I ever tell you about that thing that I did? We'll end on this.
Oh, no. What have you done now?
This was a couple months ago.
You know what you didn't do?
What?
Edit together a Supercorp shipping video for this song, which would, in fact, be perfect.
I guess you're right. I should have done that. So a couple months ago, because of how Semler was like, you know, Bob and Larry are gay, the VeggieTales are gay, which is just a joke, folks. They're cartoon characters. Like, if you want them to be gay, they're gay. If you don't want them to be gay, they're not gay. If you want them to be straight, they're straight. If they go out and date little female vegetables, that's fine. Personally, I think they're cartoon characters and they are void of sex. But I acknowledge and I
Pornhub.com/Sadie Hawkins Pod.
for the really unedited episodes. Forget Patreon. So what I did was, back in March, it was in March, I found the tweet, back in March, because, you know, Semler had from the Yeah tour, like, hey, Bob and Larry are gay, right? It's just a joke. It's just a joke, folks.
Yeah.
And then people got so mad about it. Well, then I decided to tweet, as a joke, building off of that, a picture of a real cucumber and a real tomato photo.
Yep.
on
Photoshopped onto a
a pride flag.
right.
And I tweeted, on this podcast, we believe Black Lives Matter, women's rights are humans' rights, no human is illegal, science is real, love is love, and Bob and Larry are gay. I'm taking that. We have like a couple of them in our neighborhood. Taking that sign that you put on your front lawn where you believe all these things. In this house, we believe these things.
Right.
And I'm just building off of it and making like a fun little meme out of it. Well, then I got the ire of a bunch of random people who don't even know who we are. And it's like, oh, science is real. What's a woman? And like, you just, oh, look at this. Like, I could read the people's responses.
No. Oh, no. This is why I was like, you know what? I can't be on the Twitters anymore. I can't.
What a cringe attempt at virtue signaling. You people are a pathetic joke. Virtue signaling? Who am I virtue signaling to? Our 22 listeners? Which is down to like 10 now because I'm sending so many mixed signals. And I may or may not be forgiven, but it happens.
Thank you for calling us a joke. You think we're funny. That's so nice.
And don't forget, if you've stuck with the podcast this long, all you have to do is DM, I would like a sticker, and we'll send you a free sticker.
Everyone's quickly removing their stickers that they have now.
Oh, well.
So, Danny, do you like this song more, less, or the same?
I like this song about the same, to be honest.
I think I'm going to have to go with the same as well.
Yeah.
So,
it's an okay song on a pretty good album.
Oh, no, dear.
I'm having a great time over here. I'm being me over here. In this podcast, we believe Danny should be a bit too much.